Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us here for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We'll be together for the next couple of hours talking about any of your big breaking headlines, live feeds that we're seeing around our area and beyond, and also in-depth conversations, which we're pleased to say that we've got an in-depth convo for you coming right at this very moment. So if you've been with any length of time, with us here, you'll notice that we talk quite a bit about MMA. And it's because we do have an expert, if you will, in the house. And it's really been a delight to learn a bit more about the sport and also just how it's been growing in the Charlotte area. So, of course, for folks, if you haven't met Amro is with our assignment desk, but also participates in MMA here in Charlotte. And we have Amro here with Michael from Checkmat. So y'all have I guess worked together a little bit already, kind of in your extracurriculars, if you will, and you're seeing, Michael, just the sport growing here in Charlotte.
Yeah, it's really taken off. I was fortunate enough to be part of it when I first got legalized here in North Carolina, and with a company called Fight Lab.
Yeah.
And that was a company that owned part of it, and one of my best friends, Kenny Letts, he was the majority owner. And another guy, Tom Bakley, was one of our partners in it. And we sort of got the entire scene started here in the Carolinas. And we ran with that for a while. And unfortunately, every good thing has to come to an end. But, I've been fortunate enough to see it from the beginning.
Yeah. And I mean, we have mentioned this before, but Amro, we've talked with you about how you do jiu-jitsu, and
I actually train with Michael Allen, under Michael Allen at his gym, Checkmat Charlotte, and I've been there for just about 9 or 10 months, coming from Myrtle Beach, and just an amazing gym, and amazing environment, amazing instructors. It's been a beautiful experience so far.
Yeah. So tell us a bit, about the growth of MMA in Charlotte. How has it developed? Are you seeing it in, growing interest levels, different folks who are getting into it who weren't previously into it? Is it more of like a diversifying of the styles of MMA that we're seeing here in Charlotte that are available for folks? What are you seeing, Michael?
So MMA came to the United States in its current form because everybody thinks of MMA. When they think of MMA, they think of UFC. And so the UFC came here to the United States in 1993, somewhere around through there. And MMA did not get legalized here in North Carolina until 2009. Mm-hmm. And so it was a while before it came here. It took a while to get legalized in all the states. But there was such a want for it in the community, and just based off of the beta and VHS tapes and things like that, and the pay-per-views from coming out from Nevada and Las Vegas. And so when it got legalized here, it took off really fast. And in Charlotte and North Carolina, again, like I said, our company Fight Lab was at the forefront, and I think we did, when I was with them, right at 60 shows. We used to do fights up on the Epicenter and in Grady Cole, and up on top of the Epicenter when the Epicenter was actually booming. So it was pretty interesting. We would have anywhere from 2,000 to sometimes 4,000 people at our events, and so we was at the front, and we just took it off fast, and that was where it really started in the Charlotte area. And there's been some other promotions since we went out of business, and they've kept things going. And the interest has always been there. People training, people doing different variations of the arts that make up mixed martial arts. Like jiu-jitsu and boxing, Muay Thai, things like that. So, it took off fast, and it's I think it stayed there so far. And we have some fighters in the UFC right now from the Charlotte area. Brian Battle,
Mm-hmm.
He came here and interviewed with you guys. That was pretty cool.
Did.
And so when you start getting one or two in the UFC, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. So you brought up Brian coming on the stream before. I feel like we've had the pleasure of meeting folks who have different backgrounds, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
approaching the sport, whether it was something that they kind of have always done, or maybe something that they realized after the fact that they were super into, and you were kind of surprised, like,
Yeah.
wow, you went your whole life and you're just now getting into it and you're pretty darn good.
Yeah.
What would you say for folks who, have like a budding interest, and, depending on where they are in their life, how can they get started?
I mean, there's gyms everywhere. The one thing I would say is, be careful, be realistic with your expectations, and, what you can and cannot do. Someone who's coming in and they know absolutely nothing, I'm a firm believer you need to have a base. Also, age comes into it. Mm-hmm. If you're 30 years old and up, you probably want to be a little realistic. I don't think you want to jump right into the MMA training, but probably start with like jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or boxing or something like that. So, it's for everybody. It is for everybody to a degree.
Amro, what do you want to ask Michael?
From a student perspective, I feel like a lot of times we don't ask you where in your youth and how in your youth you got started in martial arts. And
Yep.
I'm just really curious, where in your youth did you start, why, and why did you continue this long?
So I started off wrestling, which is just my opinion the best base for MMA, and really for anything. I started off wrestling, and when I was little, my dad wrestled. He took third in the state back when all of the A's were combined. He took third, I think, twice. And so from the time I was little, I was wrestling and all over the house and going to different freestyle tournaments and things like that. But and then it just sort of evolved. I went through high school and a little bit into college, and then I sort of went my own way. As far as the grappling community for a while. And then I was working at Waffle House, and some guys came in, and they had cauliflower ear. Usually, you wrestlers have cauliflower ear. Mm-hmm. I don't get cauliflower ear for some reason. I'm just genetics, I guess.
Oh, wow.
But they came in and they said, they was like, hey, you look like you wrestled before. You should come down and try our club out. And I was like, well, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's catch wrestling. And I was like, what's catch wrestling? And they sort of explained it to me. And I was like, oh, I watched the UFC and, Pride and stuff like that. I was like, okay, I'll stop by. So I went down after work, and that was it. I was hooked. It was grappling. It wasn't what I was used to with wrestling. It was sort of like, wrestling with submissions. Mm-hmm. Sort of like what we do in jiu-jitsu, but without the kimono. And, I just fell in love. I loved it. And then 2 years later, we had a guy that was like our manager for our grappling team. And he came in and he said that there was a Hoist Gracie seminar here in Concord. And so I went down with him to that. And after that, I was driving down from Asheville to Charlotte, once, sometimes twice a week to train jiu-jitsu on top of the submission wrestling training I was doing in Asheville. So,
wow.
And that's how I got started. That was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
So what pushed you to start coaching? And you've taken some students to the world level, the world championship level, and you've trained some great fighters.
Yeah.
Why did you continue that in your later on in life?
So when I was working at the Waffle House, I was also coaching wrestling.
Okay.
So, and so the coaching thing was always, a part of what I was doing. And then, I got into the catch wrestling, and I sort of started wanting to train for myself while I was doing the coaching of wrestling. And then I ended up getting injured. I hurt I'd love to tell the story like I got hurt punching somebody in the face or something like that, but I didn't. I got hurt working at the paper mill. I crushed my finger. My fingers got crushed in between two paper rolls. And so my coach was like, hey, you can't fight this weekend. And it doesn't look like you're going to be fighting probably at all for a while, because I had pins in the end of my fingers and rods. And so he was like, why don't you, you're a coach in wrestling, why don't you help me coach the team, and why don't you sort of get into like managing them. And so then I did a little assistant coaching, with the wrestling and stuff for the the MMA team that was there. And then I started taping hands. And then I started managing them and getting them fights. And then next thing I know, it was just, I had my hands in everything. So much so that I ended up quitting my job, at the paper mill. And then I ended up moving to Charlotte, and one thing led to another. And I was just in the MMA game, like deep. So
It was like it was meant to be.
yeah, that's what people told me.
This is how the story sounds,
But thinking back on it, I mean, it was a big risk.
Yeah.
It was a huge risk. It was a huge risk. But things did work out. My ex-wife at the time, she lived in Asheville, and our kids were there. And one day she was like, you know what, I'm moving to Charlotte. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, I'm moving to Charlotte. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gone. I'm going to Charlotte too. Because at that point I was driving, not only was I driving back and forth for jiu-jitsu, but I was driving back and forth because I was working with Fight Lab, the company.
That's a drive.
Yeah, and then, so at that point, I mean, I would drive down and I would end up staying for like 3 or 4 days and then try to drive back, and I ended up quitting my job at the mill, and it was getting to be a lot. And then she said that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and move down to Charlotte before you. And, then I got down here, and again, one thing led to another, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So
I know that, picking an affiliation is also kind of difficult for a lot of people.
Yes.
I know that when I first got to Charlotte, I actually, I looked around at a few gyms, and before I decided on Checkmat Charlotte, I did look at others, and I just wanted to know, what is it about the Checkmat affiliation that means so much to you personally and professionally? Why did you choose Checkmat?
So I wasn't always with Checkmat. When I told you, when I was first coming down here, I was coming to see Professor Joe Hurst, and he was Gracie Baja. He was part of the Gracie Baja Association. But it was sort of like, it seemed like a loose association. I don't want to say it wasn't, but it wasn't like how we are with Checkmat.
Right.
And so then he gave me his black belt. He gave me my black belt in 2000. We'll call it 14. Okay. And then he left and wasn't in the area anymore, and so Professor Paulo Mushu had approached me about switching over to the Checkmat team. And in my mind, I was still in that MMA mindset. I was coaching MMA, and the majority of my students were MMA fighters, and I sort of thought jiu-jitsu was sort of ridiculous. Like I liked it. I loved jiu-jitsu. I loved grappling, but the culture seemed a little silly to me, like especially with associations and stuff. And because I just didn't get it. I wasn't in that lifestyle. And so Professor Mushu had talked to me about switching teams and taking over the Checkmat Charlotte, which was what he owned at the time. And I remember when he first said it, I was like, why is this such a big deal? Like, I just didn't get it. And so, I talked to, before I switched, I talked to Professor Joe Hurst and got his blessing. And I talked to my wife, and I talked to my son, Eddie, who at the time was 16, and I think he was 16. He's 15 or 16, but he had been training under me, for a while. And I wanted to make sure all of them were cool. And then I talked to my students. And of course, my students were like, hey, we're MMA fighters. We don't care. We don't care what you do. We're with you no matter what. And so, yeah, I switched over to Checkmat, and it just opened my eyes because, it really felt like a team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And, immediately, Professor Leo, Master Leo, came in, Leo Vera, and he's the originator and founder of Checkmat USA. And he came in, and, he took me in and my team in, like we were family from day one. And then that's when I really started going to the IBJJF tournaments, and, I started pushing, my MMA fighters to more. We always, the one difference in my training for MMA fighters, and I felt like the other trainers, was that I always pushed them to train in the gi. I always push them to train in the gi. And so, I started taking them to compete, in IBJJF events and more jiu-jitsu events, and just getting real active in the scene and really representing the team and the association. And it's important. If obviously, your jiu-jitsu is your jiu-jitsu, and you hear me talk about that all the time. You don't want to compare yourself to anyone else. Your jiu-jitsu is for you. But it really means a lot when, you can go to tournaments and you can see all the other Checkmats, Checkmat Orlando, Checkmat Kazakhstan, and Checkmat Japan, and Checkmat China, or Checkmat, all these different places around the world, and you're all wearing that same patch. And, no matter where you're at, even if they don't speak your language, you get a smile, and you can share ideas, with them when you have time, and eat with them, and it's really cool feeling. And so, the association really is important if it's important to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And, so for me, it means everything. We'll always represent Checkmat. Right now I don't have to because I'm a 3rd-degree black belt, but, I plan on being with them, forever.
I know I kind of asked this before, but just for folks who might be popping in here on our feed here a little bit late, how would you recommend people get into this if this is interesting to them? I know you kind of were talking about, be diligent about where you're scoping out. Anything beyond that, where do people start, to get into this?
Well, my gym's a good place. So let's just keep it simple. As far as jiu-jitsu, number one, find a place that offers a good trial, and keep it really simple. Go to Google, put in jiu-jitsu near me, and find some places local around you. Make sure the distance is safe for you to travel, it's convenient for you to travel. Go watch a class. I always suggest to go watch a class first. If you don't know anything, if you don't know what you're getting into, go watch a class, and make sure that the vibe, you feel comfortable with it. And if you feel awkward, you feel like something's wrong, probably is, and you can come back to that place later and just go down the street and watch another class. And then take part in the trial. If they don't offer a trial, that's probably a red flag. Okay. At my school we offer 3 classes within 2 weeks. Okay. And I've tried everything under the sun. Just so I've tried a month, I've tried to do this, I've tried a free week. But the way I've thought about it is, most people, from my experience, they physically can only handle, because it's a different form of physical training with jiu-jitsu. It looks simple, but it's not simple. And so a lot of people, the first time they do it, the next day, the day after, they're really sore.
The DOMs will get you.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then, take that trial and then go do another trial. Now if you do a trial and it jumps out at you, that's probably it. Maybe you probably don't have to do another one, so, but that's the best way to start. Also, you want to look at the cleanliness of the school, not villainizing anybody, but we clean our mats after every training session 3-4 times a day, and that's important. Our gym is cleaned once a week, our bathrooms are cleaned once a week, and so things like that is important, especially in a physical combat sport, that's skin to skin contact, because there's a lot of stuff out there that can get spread. You want to make sure that everybody's clean, the gym's clean. Look at people, looking. You can look at white and see if it's white. In a gi. You look at somebody's gi. If their gi is dingy, might be a red flag. You know what I'm saying? So also look at safety. Also look at who's instructing the class. Are there high ranking belts in the class, or is it just a bunch of white belts just rolling around? So there's a lot of stuff to look at. Again, there's a lot of reputable gyms in this area. a lot of good gyms, a lot of different associations. Some gyms are more competitive, some gyms are more hobbyist. But for the most part, it's a very good community.
And what's your age range?
Oh man, I have let's see here. I have from 4 years old up to, not going to call any names, but I would say probably about 65.
Wow, that's awesome.
About 65 years old.
Wow.
So I used to have two gentlemen that were older, but they moved away. But they still train. And I stay in contact with them. It's my gym's pretty diverse. It's not diverse enough for me. I would love to see more people, more different walks of life, coming in, because I feel like it's important. I feel like jiu-jitsu is it's important, not so much for just the physical experience, but for the mental and emotional experience that it can give you, and the confidence it can build, the self-esteem, the self-awareness. I feel like that stuff is important, and I feel like there's a segment of society that needs jiu-jitsu that we haven't reached yet.
Yeah.
And it's important that those people get reached, more so than Armro here. Nobody's jumping on Armro. Women, children, the LGBTQ community. I feel like anybody who could be victimized. I feel like they need jiu-jitsu, and I feel like it's important. So that's my goal in 2026 is to reach out and get as many people into doing jiu-jitsu as possible. And I've got some stuff in the plans rolling into 2026. So you'll be seeing more of that, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. I mean, you don't, I guess, think about the diversity of a gym, if you will, but the way that you brought it out like that and why that's important, I can definitely see why that would matter.
Yeah.
Amro, do you have anything else before we wrap things up?
No, I totally agreed with that. I mean, as a person who looked around for gyms and found my gym, I can say 1,000% that I agree with the diversity part of a gym. I mean, that also has its place in everybody's game as well. Everybody is different when they train, and so you get to practice with just so many different people, and not expecting what the next person can bring. So, thank you so much, and it's a great gym, it's a great environment, and I personally love it there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I almost forgot. Hey, Aaliyah.
Who's your special shout out?
Aaliyah, my daughter.
Oh, okay.
She said she wanted me to talk about her a lot.
Okay.
So, yeah, she trains jiu-jitsu. She's 9 years old.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. So, hey, Aaliyah, Daddy will be home in a little bit. Okay?
You're doing great, Aaliyah. All right. Well, I think this is a great conversation. Feel free to come back anytime. We love to having you here on Live Impact.
Absolutely. Oh, and I have something for you.
Oh, a surprise! Yeah. More surprises.
I have something for you. Here is a Checkmat hoodie.
Oh my goodness! I don't even know. Did I earn this?
No, but you're going to potentially.
Oh no! What am I going to do now? Do I have to do something like a special? I don't even know what it's called. The terminology.
So, speaking of former guests, one of my students, Lindsay Orr, was here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
very memorable.
One of our former world champions.
Yes.
Or current world champions, and so she wants you to come and train one day in our Queens class, okay?
Oh, man.
And so she also wants you guys to bring the cameras whenever you guys come. And so I have this awesome, brand new Checkmat gi, okay? And that is yours.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yes, that is your kimono, okay, that you will get to wear at your first Queens class.
Oh, my goodness.
And so you have a invitation to come and train at our school.
That is so sweet. I'm gonna take a look at this. I don't want to delay too much here, but I'm going to look at the. I know our producer Jeb is like. I know we don't really have any time constraints here, but so this is what I just wanted folks to see it. Can you see it? There it is.
Yeah, open it up, look at the back
The
of it
color is
too.
cool.
Yeah, it's black and pink.
Oh. Oh
got
my
the-
goodness gracious.
It's got the Checkmat box on it and my logo to the right of
Is
it.
that a gargoyle or a dog?
So that is a unique story. So that is the pit puppy.
Oh.
And
Y'all know that I like those?
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I volunteer at the animal shelter.
Oh yeah, Amro told me that.
There are a lot of
That's
pit
right.
puppies there.
Yeah. So the company Fight Lab that I was telling you about, the MMA company, that dog, pit puppy, the angry pit puppy, as we used to call him, was the Fight Lab logo. Except he was sort of flexing with MMA gloves on, and so a lot of the fighters that fought for Fight Lab has that tattooed on them, and so I took the pit puppy and turned it into my logo and put it in a kimono, and I actually have it tattooed on my side when I got my black belt, big right here, and then I put it on my logo for our gis and stuff. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and it has the Checkmat cross behind it, so that's how that logo came about.
That's actually good to know. I always wondered what it was.
This is totally incredible. I'm gonna have to get with Amro because I'm like, you'll have to show me how to wear this. What do I wear with it? I'm sure there's probably more to the outfit, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, and inside of it, if you look inside of it, the embroidery, open it up on the inside, it says that's our Checkmat mantra. We are Checkmat and we are one.
Oh, that's great. Y'all totally surprised me. Y'all. Okay, well, I look forward to learning a thing or two.
There you go.
And thank you to Lindsay, too, for the special invite as well.
Absolutely.
Michael Allen, everyone, with Checkmat Charlotte and Amro. Once again, always bringing great interviews for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break here on Live Impact News. We'll be back in 2 minutes with more on the other side. We got some meetings going on, folks, so we'll probably be joining with one of those.